Super excited to be here today. I'm going to be talking about something where we're going to take everything that we've been excited about over the last few days and turn that into action that you can take home Monday morning. Now, yesterday we saw a lot, from demos and keynotes to product announcements and a cowboy that could jump inside of a lasso and back out. It was incredible. We had a lot of really good conversations in the hallways, in between sessions, and questions that were asked. And I wanted to kind of bring up two of those themes that I saw happening over and over again. The first is, there's so much excitement here, there's so many new announcements, I'm getting such a great vibe from customers who are trying to solve the same problems that I am. How do I take all of this energy back to work and turn it into something that can drive momentum for my program? The second question was around AI agents. How do I build agents that can meaningfully drive change in my organization? What do I actually build? What use cases should I build first? And I could rattle off a bunch of AI agent use cases, and some of them connect and some don't. But I think both of these things point to what I'm calling the Monday morning problem. You're headed back to work Monday, right? You've been in this environment where there's so much excitement, so many agents, so many new ideas, and you're headed back to work, and it's going to be back to the stand-ups and the meetings and the escalations and the unending team calls. And so I want to give you a strategy that you can take back Monday morning so that you can be effective in approaching your Monday morning day. Sound good? We all together here? A lot of energy in the room. Thanks, guys. I'm going to carry us for the beginning here. All right, so what I want to introduce to you is what I'm calling the symptoms of agentic processes, right? I said I could just tell you a bunch of AI agent use cases, but I want you to be able to identify these yourselves. I believe that if I can teach you the symptoms of agentic processes, then you can appropriately diagnose an opportunity that comes your way and appropriately prescribe where an agent should sit within a workflow. That's how you stick the landing on a medical metaphor, right? So we're going to talk about the three primary symptoms of agents. What this means is if your business process has one of these key symptoms, you absolutely need an agent. I will also introduce to you three secondary symptoms that will be in a workbook that I'm going to give you at the end of this session. If your process has one or more secondary symptoms, you may need an agent, but you need to evaluate the cost-benefit analysis. If your business process does not have any primary symptoms or any secondary symptoms, you may not need an agent, and that's okay. There's still a place for automation and intelligent automation even outside of agents. So let's get started with the first symptom. Symptom number one is ambiguous or variable input. And this is a situation where you can't predefine or templatize exactly what's coming in. You have to be able to read it, and you have to be able to react. And it's not going to be the exact same thing every time. The agent's first job is to understand what it's looking at, and then there's a sense of interpretation that's required. The tone, the sentiment, the understanding, the nuance. It's not just key value parsing, right? You have to be able to understand what's actually coming in. Who here has built an automation that started with an email trigger, and it was like, hey, we're going to tell our business partners they have to send an email in this exact format with this attachment, and if they screw it up, it's not going to work. You have experienced some of ambiguous and variable input, because inevitably that process broke at some point. The email wasn't formatted correctly, the attachment didn't come in exactly like you wanted, and automations have trouble with that, but agents don't. So here's our diagnostic question for this particular symptom. Do I know what's coming in and how it's formatted before it arrives? If no, then you need an agent. Examples of this include things like customer support emails, where I don't exactly know what's coming in. A customer could say, hey, I wanted to check on the status of my order, but also this last thing broke that you sent me, right? There's multiple requests there, and the tone and the sentiment changes how I might react. Vendor invoices, IT support help desk tickets, insurance claims, non-standard contracts. All of these are great examples of ambiguous or variable input. Who else has an example of ambiguous or variable input? Jason Dornblaser from Leidos does. Jason, come out here with me. That was going to be really awkward if I tried to call on someone. Jason, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Jason, tell me about a business process where you see this symptom showing up.
Yes, in our company, we have a vendor invoicing process that has a setup shared mailbox where our vendors send invoice information to. So you can imagine we get invoice emails with attachments, both structured and unstructured, that have to be processed, emails with information in the body that you have to pull out and extract and process. We also have emails that are like spam, people asking questions, not even related to the invoice at all. So we got to be able to process it all.
I love that. So what would it mean for your organization if you're able to streamline this process with an agent?
From the team working this level, it will allow them to focus more on the auditing and actually processing the invoice data. From a bigger picture total invoice process for the company, it will reduce the days to invoice, which ultimately has a positive impact on the overall cash flow for the company.
Love it. Jason, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, cash flow, keep that in mind. We're going to circle back to these later. Symptom number 2 is contextual accumulation. I think this is personally my favorite of the 3 symptoms we're going to talk about. This is a situation where I can't exactly map out the exact flow before it gets started. What I find and what I learn at each step as it executes determines what steps need to happen next. I can't necessarily just draw a flow chart for the entire flow of what needs to happen for this particular transaction. Humans can do this quite easily, right? We get some kind of request, we check into something, we move on to the next step based on what we just found. Automations can't do that quite so easily, but agents can. And each step, each discovery builds on what we're learning and what we do next. So the diagnostic question that you can ask yourself for contextual accumulation is, does what I discover mid-process change what I need to do next? If yes, then you need an agent. I think a really easy way to understand this is an IT ticket request, right? Someone fills out an IT ticket and they say, hey, I'm locked out. And the automation that runs subsequently is not just unlocking the account, because they could be locked out for any number of reasons. Maybe their password got reset recently and they just got the password wrong. Maybe we detected some security logins from places that were not recognized and we purposely locked their account, and it's actually a security issue more than just an account access issue. Maybe that person never had access to the application to start with. We want to be able to investigate those kind of things because what we learn at each step determines how we need to treat this particular ticket. Healthcare patient triage is another good example. Complex billing disputes, equipment failure investigations, all of these are examples where what we learn at each step changes how we address the following steps. Any ideas of a good example here for contextual accumulation? I'm going to call on Mike Reynolds from KeyBank. Mike, come on out. Mike, thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning.
Talk to me about a business process where contextual accumulation shows up within your organization.
Oh, yes. So when I think of banking, we have several different apps, right? You've got your mobile app, you got your web presence, you got the IVR, all these different transactions flowing to you. And then, hey, you have hiccups in the middle of the night with the system, a batch process hung up. And oh, by the way, hey, a new company comes in and wants to move $2 billion. What's the hurdles that you have to accomplish all these different goals? And they all come at you in one central place, right?
That's a challenge for sure. What would it mean for your organization if you're able to streamline this process?
Yeah, when I think of agents and being able to handle this, no longer are we bound by, let's say, the legacy RPA in the sequential world where we have to like go step by step, but we can be analyzing, systems off to the side, the transaction thresholds, the risk factors that come into play. And when you get that just mecca of all these different things coming at you and then analyzing in real time and then solutioning in real time, the transactions are seamless to the client. Our time to handle is dramatically reduced, freeing people up, and then our cost efficiency ratio just goes very, very well for us.
I love that. So sometimes it could be a business process issue. Sometimes it's an issue with underlying platforms, and you need to be able to figure that out. Cool. Yeah. Mike, thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was excellent.
Awesome.
Thank you, Mike. All right. Our last symptom of agentic processes is multi-source synthesis. And this is a situation where no one system, no one data repository gives me enough information to be able to make a decision on its own. The answer only emerges when data from those multiple systems is brought together and understood in context. Context tells me the data from one system changes how I might interpret the data from another. No single system, no single person has the full picture. I'm not just pulling data here, I'm actually understanding how the data in these multiple sources has a relationship with each other. So the diagnostic question that you can ask yourself here is, could one system or one person alone make this call? If no, then you need an agent. Think of something like AP invoice processing. I'm not only checking the invoice against a purchase order, but I'm also checking it against the delivery manifest, the contract, even an inspection report. So I can't just automatically process that. I need to check it against data and other sources. KYC and AML is another good example. Loan application review. It's not just someone's credit score. There's a lot else that goes into it. Sales and pricing proposals, as well as customer service. So those are all great examples of multi-source synthesis. To tell us about an example of multi-source synthesis in his organization, join me in welcoming Rafael Braga from Petrobras. Rafael.
Hello, Micah.
Rafael, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for inviting.
Rafael, I'm going to ask you the same question I asked these guys. Tell me about a process within your organization where this symptom shows up.
Oh, great, Micah. In Petrobras, we are a state-owned company, so we have a lot of specific laws, regulations that we must follow in every bid. So we need to make a lot of different analysis, compliance analysis, risk analysis, the supplier, if he has already other contracts, if Petrobras, how he's working with us. So it's a lot of different things that we need to do very fast because of the total time of the bid. It cannot be too much. And it's a challenge. And we are talking about 1,000 bids every year. So
yeah, that's a lot of work. So what would it mean for your organization if you were able to streamline this process with an agent?
Oh, it would be great. Because, like I said, it's so many different areas that we have to put in the bid to make this analysis. So to construct some goal-based agents for each of these subjects would be great for us, and we ask for the professional team to implement for us.
Very cool. Rafael, thank you so much for joining me. Awesome. So we just heard 3 different use cases demonstrating 3 different symptoms from 3 different organizations. Notice that all of them talked about benefits beyond hours saved, right? Most of us, when we're thinking of automations, we think about hours saved and money saved. But what I want to encourage you to think about is, as you start to get into agentic processes and as you expand beyond simple automations, you can start to open up the aperture of the benefits that your organization can recognize through agentic process automation. The way that I think about this, and again, there's guidance on this in the playbook that we're about to give you, is there are 3 kind of main buckets where these values fit. The first is financial and operational. I think of things like direct cost savings, where we think about what did we not just eliminate, but what did we reduce? Maybe we don't have to buy certain software licenses that we were going to buy otherwise. Maybe we're in a situation where we can build some things instead of buying them. Revenue generation. How do we do things to help improve our close rates? Did we sell faster? Did we sell to more people? These are things that agents can help with. Cash flow. Jason mentioned that in his example. How did it change how quickly cash moves through our organization? The second category I think of is risk and compliance. Subcategories in this include things like information technology. Where are we able to build something instead of buying it? Operational efficiency. How are we able to grow capacity without having to grow headcount? And audit, risk, and compliance. Where in our organization are we settling for sampling when we could be reviewing 100% of transactions? And not only reviewing 100% of transactions for the sake of audit, but what if we could find coaching opportunities for our staff and maybe even unlock upsell opportunities or signals from our customers that they're about to churn? So there's a lot of benefits on certain agents that go far beyond just hours saved. The last category I'll talk about is strategic and organizational. Customer and partner experience. How are we making it easier to work with us as an organization? Employee experience. How are we improving what it's like to be an employee at our organization? And environmental and social impact. How can we connect the solutions that we build to our ESG recommendations and things that we've been suggesting we can do through social and environmental impact? Now, no use case is going to check all the boxes for all of those. But as you're thinking about the story you want to tell and as you're prioritizing use cases, think about which of these boxes your solution can check. Now, I want to get into my Scrooge moment here. I want to talk about where you can find these use cases, and we're going to talk past, present, and future. So where can I find good agentic use cases that I can evaluate with these symptoms that I just learned? The first is I want to look back. What use cases did you walk away from because they felt too complex or too hard to scope, or they went beyond the capabilities of what I could do with automation? Some of those rejections were done rightfully so. Some of them were actually agentic processes you just didn't have the language to be able to identify yet. So I would encourage you to look at your backlog on those opportunities that you had to pass on to see what might be a good fit for agentic process automation. Next, I would encourage you to look at the present. Where are your existing automations bumping up against a handoff that an agent could own? Look before your process, look after your process, look midway through your process. Where are things getting so complex or so hard that it's difficult for me to approach that with an automation, but it's definitely possible with an agent? And then finally, as you look to the future, learn to ask better questions. Every use case that comes across your desk, every backlog item that you inherit from someone else, you now have access to a set of questions that enable you to ask before you commit. Thinking bigger and broader about opportunities. Where did this transaction originate? Where does it end? I don't want to own just a piece of that. I want to be thinking about the entire end-to-end process. And so I would encourage you to do that if you're not already. As people submit ideas to your opportunity intake pipeline, be thinking about how we can ask these kind of questions to understand the bigger scope of how this works. This is the kind of questioning that separates programs that plateau from those that compound their impact over time. So, as promised, this is the Monday morning playbook. If you scan this QR code, you will be taken to a PDF that has guidance on all of this. It has the 3 primary symptoms. It has the 3 secondary symptoms, which we didn't even get to talk about, but they're really good. And it also has guidance on our agentic impact measurement framework, so you can understand the multidimensional benefits of the solutions that you're delivering. So 3 things that I want you to take back next week as you go back to work. Number 1, pick a few processes, either in your backlog, something new that's come in, something that you're working on right now. Run this diagnostic. Go through this playbook. Ask yourself these questions. Can I diagnose any of these opportunities appropriately as agentic opportunities? Are they automation only? And where does an agent fit within that process? And third, prioritize on impact. Use that agentic impact measurement framework that we gave you to understand which opportunities can drive the biggest impact for your organization. A key here is to make sure that those opportunities are closely aligned with the key objectives that your executive team is driving for. It's really important to make sure you dial in on that.